Hey class, how we doing? This is Alex Keller coming to you with my first of 3 video blogs for this first round of the video blog assignment. The first PowerPoint we took a look at was the Introduction to Coaching in Higher Education PowerPoint. There were 2 things I found really good and worth talking about that actually had a whole bunch of impact on me personally as a student, and some things I try to apply to my life day to day. The first thing was motivational interviewing. For those that don't have the PowerPoint readily available, it was defined as a method that works on facilitating and engaging intrinsic motivation within the client in order to change behavior. Motivational interviewing is a goal-oriented, client-centered counseling style for eliciting behavior change by helping clients to explore and resolve ambivalence. And ambivalence was also defined as situations where mixed feelings of a more general sort are experienced, or where a person experiences uncertainty or indecisiveness concerning something. The expression sitting on the fence is often used to describe a feeling of ambivalence. So why did I choose motivational interviewing? Well, it was something that as soon as I was reading about it, it was something I knew I was immediately impacted by, because it took me being in a motivational interviewing scenario with one of my former employers to really help direct what path I was going to go on with my career, and that's pretty much what led me to this point. So about a year ago, last spring, my old boss kind of sat down, and the way I've kind of looked at motivational interviewing is it's kind of a way of you to actually face the tough questions, right? So it's like a way for me, like when I was verbatimly asked, what is my goal a year from now, 5 years from now, it's something you can think about in passing, but until you're actually asked it, you don't know how you'll respond. So to me, being in that situation, actually having to verbalize my feelings, how I was feeling, and actually set out some goals for myself, and explain some of like the concerns and some of my fears, and I'm about to graduate, like what am I going to do? It took me talking through those feelings to really kind of set a path, set a goal, and really kind of break down how I was going to get to where I am today. So that was pretty much what I brought it up to, my personal experience. But in looking at the clip that was provided as well, not too sure what movie it's from, but it's got the guy from Elf in it. So in looking at that clip, it was also important to note that, if you are the one hosting a motivational interview, you're not to belittle or make less of another person. Just because someone else, has a problem. For example, in that video, the lady had a problem with feeling like she couldn't work in tight spaces, and it was just actual fear. And while, that may not be something that you seriously take into account for, like I'm not scared of being in a box, it doesn't mean you can belittle that and talk down on someone who is experiencing that issue. So I have written down just not to belittle or make less of another person, but it's a way to help understand yourself, help the interviewees verbalize their character traits, concerns, fears, and etc., and really just kind of get them to kind of almost find self-motivation through your interview. And then there are 2 other little things which all follow under one umbrella, under elements of coaching. And this was also something I found important, just because it helped me understand, this is kind of what I look for in a coach, and this is kind of what I want to hopefully, replicate when I'm in the coaching position. So the first element of coaching that I wrote down was transparency, relating to a person you're talking with and showing sympathy and understanding while not making it about yourself. Transparency to me kind of builds a little more trust, especially like, especially coming into a new job or having a job, you kind of view your employer or your coach or whoever as like this higher up, like you look up to them. And to me, when a coach or a boss or someone is transparent with you, kind of gives you an insight to their life, some of the experiences they've gone through, it really kind of helps you feel a little more at ease. Like you're not talking to like some god that you need to be on your best behavior for, but it shows like a humanistic side of everyone. So being transparent, and expressing your feelings in relation to what your client or student or athlete, whoever it may be, whatever they're feeling, it kind of makes you a little more relatable. But at the same time, and this is why I put in there not to make it about yourself, it's very easy to, you hear someone talking about a situation, you've been in the exact same situation. It's very easy to fall into a trap of fully making it about yourself and explaining, this is what I did to get through it, you can get through it too. Really empowering the interviewee, the student or the athlete, whoever you're guiding as a coach, really just kind of being transparent with them, and just being able to shed a little bit of light onto your situations, but at the same time keeping the focus on them. Like, you want them to keep talking, you want them to feel heard in a scenario like this. So that's what I had for transparency. Moving into guidance. Guidance is helping athletes and students identify their goals, short and long term, setting up a plan to achieve those goals, and allowing athletes, students, etc., the chance to verbalize and speak into existence what they have been holding in. And this also just kind of goes back a little bit to what I already mentioned within the motivational interviewing. Within my personal experience, it's that guidance piece. It was really just, sitting down and being asked those tough questions, verbalizing, speaking into existence what I wanted for my life. And if I were in, my boss's position at the time, I would want the same thing. I would want, whoever I was talking to be able to fully express themselves and really just put it out into the air. Because, if you're able to say, in 5 years, I want to be doing this, I want to be at this school, whatever, okay, that's 5 years from now. But now that you verbalized it, you have that, it's in the air. So now what can you do to build, one day at a time, brick by brick, how do you build up to get to that goal? Moving into the final piece of elements of coaching, which I know this is making this a little long for the first PowerPoint, we had cognition. What are the small strides you can make each day to get better, right? How can there's that Will Smith quote, and I always like going back to it. It's about building the wall. If you're tell someone to go build a wall just doesn't appear overnight. But if you go into every single day, how can I lay this brick as perfectly as possible? View every single day as one single brick, and how can you make each day as perfect as possible to get to eventually have your own wall, get to where you want to be, build yourself up to where you're getting exactly what you wanted out of it. What work do you have to put in to get to where you want to be? And that was just another piece that I thought was very important as far as an element of coaching and empowering the person you're interviewing, the students, the athletes, whoever it may be. But that's all for introduction to coaching in higher education.